Just a little bit about me, actually, before I start. I've been a passionate environmentalist since I joined Greenpeace, I think at the tender age of 13. And that has guided my career ever since. I'm also really passionate about the wealth in the broadest sense that air travel can bring. So I suppose, the job that I'm doing at Heathrow, absolutely bringing those things together in many ways, is a dream job for me. And I hope to bring some of that to life briefly this afternoon. 3 key messages I want to touch on with you. Firstly, Heathrow expansion, not a choice between economy and the environment. We think we can do both. I'll say a little bit about our track record to date, but focus thirdly and particularly on our commitment to be the world's most environmentally responsible hub airport. So particularly that question of how we make infrastructure sustainable. I think it's probably in my contract that I can't give any public speech without saying something about the economics of Heathrow. I'll be brief. I know this is an environment conference, but really just to set out where we are in the debate on future infrastructure that we're talking about here. Heathrow is the UK's only hub. It pools short-haul and long-haul traffic and allows us to sustain a wide range of destinations all over the world. 80% of the UK's long-haul traffic goes from Heathrow. Actually, it's only one of 6 airports around the world that serve more than 50 long-haul destinations. So a real national asset for the UK, particularly important in connecting us to emerging markets, and that's particularly important as the shift of the global economy continues towards the east. It's not just passengers. Heathrow is the UK's biggest port by value. Something we're talking more and more about. It's a fact that's not particularly known. A quarter of the UK's exports, and bear in mind we're the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world, a quarter of our exports go through Heathrow. But we're full, and we're struggling to add new routes as some of our competitor hubs around the world are, which is why the Airports Commission, having looked at this issue over a number of years, earlier this year concluded unanimously that Heathrow is the right location for a new runway to bring economic growth and jobs across the UK. Critically, though, on the environment theme, they concluded that actually Heathrow expansion can take place within environment limits. Actually, the Airports Commission went further and said, in some cases, actually, Heathrow can be better because it's bigger, particularly actually in relation to noise, and happy to explore that if we have any time in questions. But the 3 key issues for us, carbon, air quality and noise, we can expand within carbon limits. The Airports Commission drew an analysis by the Committee on Climate Change. We can grow within air quality limits and continue to improve air quality around the airport and with fewer people affected by noise than today. I won't say much about today, but really just to draw out the theme that I'll touch on in my third message in a second, that we're increasingly looking at how we use technology to solve some of the sustainability challenges that we've got. Like many companies, we've set a series of 2020 goals covering the issues I've mentioned: carbon, a 34% reduction over 1990 by 2020 in line with the government. Just 3 examples here on the screen to give you a bit of a feel. At the top, the little pod that you can see underneath the aircraft is an electric powered vehicle, driverless, that takes you from one of the car parks near Terminal 5 to the car park. We invested in that technology, small scale innovation to begin with, but something that we see having further use more broadly. What it obviously does is zero emissions at point of use, takes buses off the road around the airport. Down at the bottom left, less a carbon one, but we innovated many years ago now, actually, introducing the first reed bed system at an airport around the world to filter some of the huge volumes of water runoff from the airport that we have. And we're continuing, as are many companies, to drive energy reductions. We use as much electricity actually as the Isle of Wight, so a big amount. We achieved huge savings last year through just good practice, energy demand management, rolling out energy efficient lighting. Actually, we did get an award last night from Boris Johnson. As you may know, not necessarily the hugest fan of Heathrow, but we got a bronze award in his mayor's energy challenge. Not widely publicised, I have to say, by the GLA, something that we will probably be looking to publicise a bit more ourselves. Then the final message, really just to take us to the future. We're committed, as I said, to be the world's most environmentally responsible hub airport. And let me just say a little bit about that. I think there is rightly and understandably a big focus on the environmental challenges of growth at Heathrow. There are important environmental challenges, and we're absolutely clear we'll need to meet tough targets. We set out how we can grow while meeting those carbon and air quality limits, reducing the number of people affected by noise. The Airports Commission has backed that vision, but added some further conditions for any future growth at Heathrow. But actually, I'd like to move on a bit from that debate, vital as it is, and leave you with a slightly more positive, a different environmental vision of Heathrow, in a sense from the one that's all about meeting limits and reducing impacts, and actually try and turn that on its head and turn it into a positive. I think from our perspective, what we're increasingly thinking is, because the bar is set so high at Heathrow, that actually means that we'll need to be at the forefront of environmental innovation. And when we talk about being the world's most environmentally responsible hub, we're thinking of things like supporting research and development, both into our impacts, but in how to tackle those new technologies and new operating procedures. What's absolutely clear is we don't have the answers today and the solutions to all of the challenges that we face. We'll need to be piloting new technologies, incubating startup technologies. I mentioned the pods, for example, building those into the design, the construction, the operation of the new airport. Here's a mock-up of CGI of the new airport, and just to put out a couple of things to give you a feel for that in closing then. The layout of the airport will be much more efficient in future. Heathrow has grown organically over 7 decades nearly now. We're effectively imposing a 21st century, much more efficient airport layout over what was fundamentally at heart a 1950s layout. For those of you that do know Heathrow, this is the west end of the airport near us here. Terminal 5, we'll build that out to a new Terminal 6. But we're locating offices. You can see the business park near the M25 on the public transport links at Heathrow. So giving more people the opportunity to get out of cars when they come to the airport. Real opportunity as we look at the next generation of airport terminals to look at how we design energy generation into those, as well as energy efficiency. We're talking to British Airways about the investment they're making in energy biofuel from waste plants, taking municipal waste and converting that to biojet. Can we do something similar at Heathrow, closing the loop, taking the waste we've got, generating fuel for planes, fuel for vehicles? I'm not sure you can see any of them on the mock-up there, but at the moment we've got 8,000 vehicles that drive around within the airport fence at Heathrow. We've got the first publicly accessible hydrogen station. We've committed for all of our small cars and vans to be electric by 2020. What more can we do in that space to test, to develop, to promote new technologies? And equally, we're creating a new green ribbon around the airport. You can just see the bottom of that here in terms of landscaping, so creating a really valuable community amenity as well. So not a choice between the economy and the environment, and we're committed to be the world's most environmentally responsible hub, and really interested, keen to hear your thoughts and to work with the organisations and the expertise in that room to make that, a reality. Thank you.